The meeting is called to order at 7:07. And we'll do the roll call. You want to start, Mike, at your end?
Sure, Mike Hoffman, regular member.
Aaron Wolfson-Suppian, regular member.
Carolyn Singer.
Charlotte Hitchcock, vice chair. Do I want to say that I'm chairing the meeting tonight?
Yeah, you're acting chair.
Acting chair, okay, great.
Michael Barron, town planner. Larry Brickner would and cannot make it tonight, and I have not heard from Jennifer Becker.
Okay, Eric Lund, town council rep.
Tom Janos, alternate.
Sally Tobias, Planning Board Rep.
All right, so in the absence of Larry and Jennifer, Tom is your only alternate right now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
he's
Tom-
the only alternate in the room.
Yeah, all right, Tom, you're in for Larry, I guess. All right, so any comments on the agenda?
I make a move that we approve it.
Second
As
that.
presented.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the agenda is approved. All right, the minutes for the last meeting, March 6th.
Got a few copies if anybody wants hard copies.
Right.
So let me take one because I
Yeah,
glanced
can I
at it.
have one too? I did read them, but I,
Thank you.
I may have made sent a minor comment in on that, but nothing substantive.
Okay, any other comments? Somebody like to move that we accept it?
I move that we accept the minutes of the March 6, 2025 meeting with minor amendments.
I abstain from voting as
Oh,
as
okay.
absent.
I'll second it.
Okay, great, all right. All in favor?
Aye.
Nah.
Any opposed?
Right,
Right.
and one abstention.
Right. Okay, unanimous except one abstention.
Oh, we usually read the land, water, and life acknowledgement.
Oh, okay.
Oh, because it's
Should
the
we do
annual
that?
meeting.
Maybe we should include that on the agenda itself.
Yeah, that's a good idea, that'll remind us, because
Yeah.
sometimes
Right.
we do it sort of selectively, but it's a good idea. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's add that
Yeah.
Should be
to a
on the
future
agenda.
agenda.
Yeah.
The town of Durham, New Hampshire wishes to acknowledge the spiritual and physical connection maintained by the Pennacook, Abenaki, and Wabanaki peoples to Endakina, homeland, Aki, land, Nibi, water, Lolak, Wikak, flora, and Awasak, fauna. New Hampshire has been home to these indigenous people for thousands of years. The residents of Durham acknowledge the ongoing hardships endured by our indigenous neighbors after the loss of their unceded homelands, which we now steward, and we will work to foster relationships to support the well-being of indigenous people who carry forward the traditions of their ancestors. So where do we want to put that in the agenda? At the beginning of the...
That probably belongs between seating of alternates and approval of the agenda, is my guess.
Okay.
is this going to be done like every meeting or just the annual meeting?
Oh, no, we have been doing it at every meeting.
Yeah, Larry's been doing it. He's been belting it out fairly early in the meeting.
Yeah.
I don't think it's been at every meeting though, but
It may have
anyway.
been forgotten because it's not on the
Here and there,
agenda.
Right.
All right, so, so after the seating of alternates, then we have a full complement, so we'll do the,
sounds
put the
yeah.
reading in then.
It might be something we check with Larry and see where he's most comfortable with.
Yeah, right,
Right.
good point.
Right, and check with Todd if the town has any policies of where that should go.
Oh, the town actually leaves it up to each board.
Okay.
All right, any public comments tonight?
No one on Zoom?
Nope, no one on Zoom.
Okay, so nobody, all right, so staff report.
Only that I sent around a note, and Charlotte did as well, that the Oyster River marker is now in place, several years after the
Yes.
Right.
start of that saga. I think most of you were around then, and it was great. The HTC convened a roundtable with about 20 people around here, 15 people, all the different stakeholders, a few people from the Native American community, DOT, Historic Resources, and deliberated the changing in the wording. And after 3 meetings, was able to come up with very good wording and a timeline. DOT accepted it, and they just installed a new marker. It's really nice.
And they took our first choice of location, I think, which is nice because you can see it from, if you're standing next to the rink and that strip of parking that they have, you can see down to the water, and it's right in the middle of your view. So it's like there's a kind of a forest of other signage around there, but this one is very prominent. So
I think we're fortunate to have it. I think that they recently put a freeze on any future markers.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah.
DOT?
Yeah, they
Why?
said because of maintenance. It's a
Cost?
curtail costs.
I bet.
Maintenance costs,
I mean, once they're installed, there's not much maintenance.
not much.
Well, you got to
Newmarket was trying to get
Mow
one,
around
and we
it.
were told, no, they've
What's that?
they've frozen
mow
any
around.
future.
So-
And we've been working on one for years, but
That's
So that's probably
unfortunate.
explains why Amy Dixon is no longer in that position. That's unfortunate.
well, it's nice that we were able to close that one out.
Guess we were lucky to get it in under the wire.
And it's so sort of juicy, green and white, bright, compared to the ones that have been sitting around for a long time. It's very nice. All right, so on to the updates. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Lafayette Bicentennial Celebration, which I said I would manage. And so I've spoken with a couple people about working on the day, and I'll probably talk to more of you as we go along and we know exactly what we need to do on that day. And I'm working with all the authorities necessary for the permit to use town facilities and cross the street and all that stuff. Meeting with Rich Rain shortly and the police chief, the fire department, whatever. Representatives from the American Friends of Lafayette, Alan Hoffman, who's the cheerleader for the whole thing, and the person with the horse came by on a site visit, and we took a walk around. And after I had suggested, I had thought the carriage would be bigger than it turns out it is, so I thought they would need to come on the street. But after looking at Old Landing Park, they agreed that the park was a good place to park it, because there's room to turn around. But they said they could drive this carriage up to the end of the road, and then they could go between the wooden posts and up the sidewalk to Newmarket Road, right next to the bridge. And then they could go along the sidewalk, kind of with one wheel off the paving, to where Three Chimneys has their curb cut and cross the street there. So they really don't have to go in the street at all, but they just have to cross it in one place. So I'll be running that by Rich Rain and the other, the police and all, and see what they want to do, whether we need to have them help us cross the
Right,
street.
Well, I mean, technically, Old Town Landing Road is a street, but it's a dead-end street.
Right, but so anyway, they felt that the carriage, they measured the distance between the posts and went back and checked the carriage, and they said it would fit through there, so that makes it means it's really sort of following the old route along the old landing, which is very nice. And so they'll come across and they'll come into our parking lot, which will be barricaded off, so there'll be no parking here, it'll all be pedestrian. And they'll let Lafayette out of the carriage. And I think they said that the 3 sons of the American Revolution with the muskets will be walking with the carriage, and so they'll become along too. And then the carriage will depart because the horse has to get away before the musket firing, and then the speeches will take place. And so here's a press release here. I'll send a couple down that way and a couple this way. It's a press release developed by Alan Hoffman and I've run it by Todd Selig, and he's happy with it.
I'll pass it down after I finish reading it.
The picture's in color, but I have a black and white printer, so. And John Herman has agreed to be our representative. John Herman is the gentleman from Newmarket who has written the book on Wentworth Cheswell, and he enjoys doing reenactment, so he's willing to come and be the representative of Durham. Mitchell, what's his name, Mitchell, attorney from, who, anyway, he's the person who gave a welcoming speech, so they'll both, he'll give his speech, and Lafayette will give his reply, and that'll be about it, and the musket firing will happen, and the Riverwoods food truck has agreed to come and provide refreshments on the site, so we'll have a little bit of festivity. And it is going to be advanced to be about 15 minutes earlier than we originally thought because of the time they need to get to their next stop in Northwood. So, but it's still like 10:15 is when it'll
Right.
be, and it'll be over by, within an hour. So that's about the story, where it is right now.
Nice.
Okay, next item is Me Too, because for our seating area in Lafayette Park, Riverwoods is replacing some of their outside furniture to make it more old people friendly, and they have agreed to donate one of the teak benches to us.
Oh, nice.
So,
Okay.
yeah, and it's actually been refinished. It's been pressure washed and sanded and teak oiled. It looks almost as good as new. And so it's waiting to be picked up now, and I'll get, DPW to pick it up, and then we'll get it installed, probably in time for this bicentennial event. So that takes care of that one. Carolyn, can you report on
No,
Bickford
why don't you do
Chesley?
it, because you found the interesting features there?
All right, well, we had our bi-weekly job meeting today in which we go over, the process of what's happening, and a lot of it is Rich Rain and the contractor, David Bear, talking about submittals, but so often it also involves us as advising about what we think is historically correct. And today, Nancy Sandberg and Janet Mackey attended as well. They are at a point now where they have completed excavating the cellar so that they can put in a vapor barrier and a slab, and they've poured the foundations for piers that they need down there. So that's coming along. They've almost completed the rough wiring, the rough plumbing, and they're working on the heating, ventilating, and air conditioning installation. So they're doing a lot of that infrastructure work is coming along rapidly. We've had the person doing the windows who's called the Window Woman.
Oh, yeah.
And you know about her?
Yeah, I work there at Chinburg.
Oh.
She's awesome.
Yeah. So she's making all the sash for the windows, the replacement sash. And we've had a lot of discussion about what color they should be because we gave her a couple of windows from the attic, which were clearly dark in color. And she says that, and then historic photos show them as being dark. She says that they are dark green, and so all the sash will be painted dark green on the outside and a kind of a tan color on the inside that matches the shutters, the extant sliding shutters that we have. Much discussion about which is the perfect gray or tan or whatever it is. So that's coming along. And what else should we talk about?
Do you want to talk about the earlier parts
right.
of the...
Yeah, we already talked about that, or is this the first time?
I don't
So
know.
one of the great discoveries was when the ceilings were taken down in the two rooms that are the two kitchens with the hearths. It turned out that they were a lower ceiling than the ceilings in the north rooms. And there was a double layer of joists, one that had the ceiling attached, and then about a foot higher, there was one that supported the floor above. And the funny thing is that nobody who'd surveyed or measured the building had noticed the difference in ceiling height, which I found slightly amusing. So then the question was like, why? Why was this? And the more we looked, the more we realized that there was an entire timber frame of an older vintage than the 1804 construction. And there were posts with mortise and tenon joints where the brace had been removed, so leaving just the pocket of the mortise. And there were Roman numeral marriage marks showing how they were supposed to fit together, which puts them really back into the 1700s, the construction of that bit. And so we really figured out that there was a two-room house with probably a center chimney, because there's a strange room dark, windowless room in the middle of the house, and it's exactly where a center chimney would have been. And I realized that there's a little windy stair, which you think of as the back stair of the house, but I looked at the underneath side of it, and it was finished very finely with like a molded edge. And then I thought, aha, this is the original stair, because a real colonial house had a little tiny windy stair to get up to either the second floor or the attic. And so that's the original stair, and it's on the south side. And you would have built your house with the windows facing south. And in this case, that became the back when they built the new addition onto the other side. So it was a great, very exciting preservation discovery to figure all that out. And we've consulted with a number of other historians who've been involved with the project. And everyone agrees that it is a frame from, an earlier building. Nobody's sure whether it was built on that spot or moved there from somewhere else. But the more we look at the foundation, we're pretty sure that it was built there. So it must have been that the Davises, who had their garrison house down by the water, sometime in the following 100 years, they decided to move up the hill and built another house or whatever, maybe. Not sure exactly what happened, but
And no one ever realized
no one
this.
knew about it. So Carrie LaPrey, who did the state register nomination, she studied it for her master's degree, and she had no idea, because nobody could
built
see,
in
but
and around.
nobody could see what was above the ceiling. So
really wild.
this was really fun, and we're going to leave exposed a couple of bits of the old timber work so that people can see, and we can have a little interpretive material about that.
That's really
So that's been a real fun part of it. And then we're working towards, Carolyn has done a lot of work on how the exhibition space should be structured and the lighting for that. And we've sort of worked through all the cost wrinkles about that. So it's moving along well. We're having an extensive discussion about what color the exterior should be painted, because
There are 101 whites.
right. And there are people who, among our people we've discussed who are, historians, some feel that white is the proper color. Others say, no, not white. It should be like a off-white, like this house here in Portsmouth, or like this house here in, Maine. So.
They say there really were 101 whites.
Oh, well, if you look at any.
Well, I mean, it would all be handmade. I mean, it would, your whites would be varied by formula.
Right. But
Right,
probably
yeah. And
preference.
even into the day, this era of commercial paint, you've got at least 101 different
Yeah,
shades of
right,
white.
right. And
There's so many shades of
Carolyn
white
has
out
got
there.
all the samples from.
I have all 101.
So we've been working on that for a while, and the more people get involved, the harder it is to decide, because everyone has their own opinion.
Well,
So-
different lighting, it will take different.
So that's about where it is, but it seems to be on track to get done by the end of the year. Carolyn's working on the first exhibit, so to hopefully set a good tone for what kinds of things we would have there. So, anything else you want to add?
No,
That's good. All right. Okay, the historic
I will talk
preservation.
about the trust
All right,
fund.
good.
So I don't know, many of you might remember a few years ago, we established a trust fund to maintain the town-owned historic properties and, interpretation and preservation. However, we wanted to separate out the Bickford Chesley House and Wagon Hill Farm, because Wagon Hill Farm has a quite extensive array of historical components, whether you're talking about the wharf or the, burial ground or the foundation, site of the foundation. So there's quite a bit going on. So we established the Wagon Hill Farm Heritage Expendable Trust, which people can donate to, and I hope everybody here will, to help support some of the activities, historical, mostly historical. So they would be preservation and interpretation related. Because not everything that we need for the gallery, for example, is going to be covered by the L-chip grant, the Moose Plate grant, or the portion paid by Durham. So we will need more funds. So I hope people will take a look. It was advertised in last week's Friday updates, and I hope it's going to be in again, but this is an ongoing thing and worthy cause. And I will say that given, first of all, it's very difficult for a town to receive funding from foundations because, you know, we are a nonprofit, but we're technically not a nonprofit organization like a museum. So some funders, but not all, are weary of giving money to towns. So that, plus the fact that right now, funding for basic human services is being cut. I think funders are a little iffy.
But you have secured some.
We did get a $3,000 gift from Kennybunk Bank. And and we have other grants pending, but, you know, there's no doubt that all the cuts have been made by the current administration are having an impact.
All right, on to the election of officers. So I believe that Larry is going to continue as the chair.
I think that he is willing to if people nominate him.
And Charlotte, I know in the past you haven't wanted that.
No, I do not want.
And,
I prefer to be the vice chair.
That's what my question was. So can I make the recommendation that Larry continue as chair and Charlotte continue as vice chair?
I will second that nomination.
All right.
All right, and are there any other alternative nominations for either the chair or the vice chair?
I think they've done a great job.
All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, unanimous.
Thank you.
Joke with every crowd.
All right, and so what does this annual meeting item generally consist of?
Well, it's in our rules of procedure, and it's a good thing. We do it the same evening, it's part of the election of officers annually, and a chance to talk about the past year, triumphs and not triumphs, and ideas for the upcoming year. It's in the middle of the year, which I guess is a little bit awkward, but I think we're doing this on a 12-month basis. That makes sense, rather than, yeah. So looking ahead, looking past over the past year, the past 12 months, any comments or thoughts, and then likewise ideas for projects the upcoming year?
Well, I can speak for myself and probably Charlotte in saying that the Bickford Chesley House has been a huge project and will be a huge project for the next year. So I'm committed to that, and I probably wouldn't want to take on any other responsibilities.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's going to be an ongoing project to get it started, to get a good system for managing the galleries, to get people used to using it and enjoying it. And then there's still the project for the town to decide what to do with the barn and at what point to do something more with finishing the barn side, because that's not been part of our, being not historic, it has not been part of our scope for the house rehabilitation. However, we are providing the bathrooms, the toilets, which hopefully everybody will be very happy about.
one holder or two?
Well, it's 4 individual. Well, I was in
One
favor of,
outside.
I was in favor of composting, but nobody else thought that was a good idea.
In regards to our annual meeting, did we decide that we'd look at our goals and objectives each year at our annual meeting? And if, maybe it might be late to be doing it for this meeting, but maybe we want to put it on our agenda for next meeting, just so that we're thinking about this forward year.
This would be the appropriate time to take a look at our, committee goals.
Yeah, I think just to kind of keep track, because I think that it was brought up that, we didn't have clear goals for a little bit, or we didn't know when the last time we set our goals was, or we hadn't for a while. So it just seems that it does make sense once a year to re-examine them. And I do think that maybe it's a little late to be thinking about just tonight, because we won't let it, mature in our brains for very long. But maybe next meeting we do
Yeah.
discuss them.
And actually, you're bringing up a good point. What's our budget for this year?
Have one.
No, we do.
We
You
do.
remember, we
So-
proposed it, but we didn't.
Yeah,
We never heard
yeah,
back.
but we do. I don't have that number off the top of my head, but it is a line item in the town council budget.
Michael,
It's,
Danny?
I don't remember the amount, but
2,500,
it's pretty generous, for having a sign, and I think, there's enough for some special events.
So can you send it to us?
Yeah. But I think it was approved largely as proposed by the HTC, to include sign, and that we had talked about some sort of a special event, tours and
Well,
having guest speakers. that kind of thing.
Right. The relevant number would be in the town's 2025 budget. I don't remember off the top of my head what the amount is, but I should have a copy of that budget at home somewhere.
Yeah, I'll send it around.
because Charlotte, and the old brick town hall sign is here.
Right.
And we're probably just waiting for,
Yes,
Works,
it arrived during the snowy time, and so they weren't going to.
right, but also
Yeah, so-
they're short-staffed now,
Yeah,
so we'll
yeah.
probably just wait until they get more staff and have
Right.
time. But
So
it's,
that'll be
so
upcoming.
that's good, two signs in a year.
So what we should do is next year in April, we should give everyone a copy of what our goals were. And so that everyone
And
would
so that
be
we would
prepared
be
to discuss
prepared.
them
Yeah,
at this
discuss at the May
meeting.
And they're projecting the next budget year to be difficult because of several contract negotiations, is that correct? Did I interpret that correctly?
I won't say for 100% sure that that's accurate, but that's plausible.
Okay. Because I thought they said that there were at least 2 union contracts that were up.
So maybe we can have some kind of a dedication event for the sign when we do get it put up.
Yeah,
And
that's a
that would
good
be
idea.
if it probably won't happen in May, so it can't be part of Preservation Month, but at least we're doing the Lafayette thing in Preservation Month, so that's good.
So we do have various things in the works, the signage for entering the historic district. That was a main one, but I think it would be helpful to think about, is there a particular property or sign that you want to create for this coming year?
I got something I'm just going to throw out to everybody right here and just see what everybody thinks about it. I think everybody has been to across the street at the, okay, you've all been there. And if you're sitting out there, and if we do have a great day, you'll notice people start meandering over to the cemetery, the town cemetery. Oh, I've been in through it many times myself. What an opportunity for us to have something there to indicate who's buried there. as far as townspeople.
And I think Janet Mackey has done a lot of work on this
Yeah,
burial
but there's
grounds.
nothing showing right now.
Yeah,
I'm talking
that's
about
right
what we're
here.
seeing today, not what we're doing in the
No, but I
back
think,
rooms.
I think they're working on that.
I mean, there's not even a sign indicating the cemetery name. I think is it called the town cemetery or the schoolhouse cemetery?
So basically, you want an interpretive sign for that cemetery.
Well, that's possible, but the other possibility is there's a, yeah, interpretive sign or just having something that's saying, I've seen cemeteries like this where General so-and-so would be buried here, so on and so forth, and it would list where these people are.
Where they are.
Right.
Because when I see people that are going over here, across the street, and then they meander over there and they're walking around, what a great
I
opportunity.
know, but that's a lot of research, just telling you.
Well, yeah.
Well,
no,
yes
that's-
and no, because everybody that's buried there, the town obviously has records of who's there.
Yes, but I think you have to, if you're, I think you have to be fair, and, it's not just the men who had political,
Well, no, I mean.
and getting
But the thing is,
information.
you're not, there's two ways of doing this. Obviously, you can list everybody that's in there, but that's a pretty arduous involvement of everything. Or you can just highlight the important ones that we feel that should be on there. And it could be added later, more that people say, hey, we forgot this one,
And
and
you
we forgot that
discover
one.
more people.
But I mean, it's so
my-
sad when you go by here. Just take a drive down that road and you see, that's where the early settlers of this community.
Right.
I mean, I look at it this way, maybe because of my background, cemeteries, I was a funeral director. If you're into history, and if you're not into cemeteries, then I don't know what kind of history you're into, because that's where the history of this town is, right there. It's not in this room, it's over
Well,
there.
there and in the 90 other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but that's
cemeteries.
Right, yeah, no, it's,
But perhaps we should be doing a cemetery tour, a burial.
Well,
ground.
right,
and-
no, it's,
That has actually, we actually have been discussing that.
We being,
I've had conversations with Janet about that, because she's done a lot of research
Yes.
on who's buried there, so.
and
you know,
actually, I mean, there's a lot of information just in like Stackpole, because one of our residents at Riverwoods did a story for our newsletter on the burial ground that's on the edge of our property. And she got it all right out of what was already written. So,
Yeah,
between that and
Yeah,
what Janet already knows.
yeah, no,
But yeah, just
It's
the
a
other
good
day when I
idea,
was
though.
there, I just happened to see the people going across the street, and all of a sudden, like
Yeah.
a light bulb went off in my head, and I said,
Yeah.
you know something? I said, they need some kind of whatever. I mean, first off, you need a sign to say what the name of the cemetery is. I think that's
Right.
important as itself. But also to have either a signage, whatever. I mean, we have enough to talk about signs, but I mean, some kind of,
Yeah, that's a really good-
tutorial or
yes,
however we
and
want to do
I
it.
thought that it would be fun to have one at Broth Hill with the town pound and some description of the little community there. So
Now,
those
let me
are a
ask
couple
you
things.
folks, you probably know, is this where the first settlers pretty much, that, I know they're buried everywhere, but I mean, in relationship to, say, the 1800s, 1700s, most of these folks are in there?
yeah, the oldest grave sites I've seen in there date from 1735, and there's a significant cluster of those,
Yeah.
as if there were some kind of
throat distemper.
plague or
During
other
1735, there was.
or other epidemic going through in the
Nothing in
latter
the
half of
All ages.
1735.
Wow.
Yeah,
No 1600s?
not that I've seen.
I bet the
Pull out
1600 would
Pull out
be.
your Stackpole and look and see what's,
Right,
what
right,
it
yeah.
says about it, because it probably has an account of when it was established and why. Was it related to the fact that the meeting house was right there in front of the Sullivan House originally?
I think it would be interesting because you have all the people that come to the tide line.
Well,
And
exactly.
Right.
it pulls people in, and so it just kind of expands an interest in saying,
Yeah.
oh, what that is there. And people would like to know, except they are probably meandering over there because they find it interesting.
Well, there are a lot of
And
people
then
that are
to
interested in
have-
that.
Yeah, and then you have some kind of information about it. It just adds a layer of interest to being here in Durham.
Yeah, I'm surprised there's no sign there. I'm not sure if the town actually owns it. I'll check on that.
That's the other thing, is
Is
that
it
is,
the chimneys
it's
that
certainly
owns
adjacent
No,
to the
Oh, I don't think it's.
Three Chimneys property. I don't know if Three Chimneys owns it, but
No, I don't. So
I'll check on
look
that.
at it, yeah, just look it up in your wonderful GIS system now and click on the
Yeah.
box for that and it'll tell you
Well,
who
who
owns it.
maintains it, Michael, as far as DPW?
Because it is.
No, I'm almost afraid that it's, a number of errors, and that it might even be a challenge to get permission, if the town is willing to spend money on a sign. But I'll check. I think that's a great idea.
I think
I'm
Janet-
sure there's a tremendous history there.
Oh,
What is Janet?
Because-
Well,
this could also be a focal point of if you're trying to raise funds for within the town, get this going, people get the impetus of trying to get into
They
something.
find it interesting.
And they find it, exactly, look at other places, look at Portsmouth with their cemeteries, they've capitalized on that sort of thing.
People like to wander through them. I mean, there's a draw, it sounds kind of
Oh, yeah.
weird, but there's a draw to go
Especially
and
now.
see the names and
I was in Boston just a couple of weeks ago, the Granary Burial Grounds, you know where that
Oh,
is?
yeah.
Oh my God, it looked like
Ben
there
Franklin.
was a party going
It's
on.
like,
There was-
it's like, yeah.
There was like
Disney
200-300
crowds.
people
Yeah.
walking around, and my wife said, "What do you think it is?" I said, "Well, 250 years. People are getting anxious. They want to go see where Paul Revere is and everybody else."
I've been into that one several
yeah.
times. It's
Well,
always filled with people.
Yeah, and also the cemetery in St. Anne's Chapel, the smaller
Yeah.
one. It's
Yeah.
a great cemetery.
It's owned by the heirs of Ebenezer Smith et al.
This cemetery?
Ebenezer
Yeah, but the town has done work in there before. There are a bunch of broken
Yeah.
stones, and the town reset them all in mass.
Janet and her Save Our Stones
And,
is the
Yeah.
ones who have done that.
But it is listed as the heirs of Ebenezer Smith.
Well,
Yeah,
find out.
so a private cemetery.
I don't know,
Yeah, I'm
it's
not
all
sure
you-
about the history.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
when I went on and Googled that cemetery, it's referred to as the Durham Town Cemetery.
Well,
No, it's not.
but
The,
there's-
it's not.
it's
The,
not.
It's not the current.
No, because
the current. The current one is down
Right,
off
so-
of.
Main Street,
Back
yeah.
that way, yeah. I know where it is.
Way down
Way
there.
up, almost at the Lee Town
A
line.
bunch of navigators here. You all pointing in different directions.
That way.
That way.
I don't think so.
Well, you go that way, and then
All
you
right.
keep going that way.
Well,
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
continue this when we talk about our goals next month. We can continue this
I think that's a good
conversation.
idea.
Right.
And meanwhile, anyone who feels moved, get out your stack poll and take a look and see what it has to say.
But, the solution to that, some towns have done, is when there's a parcel that you don't have control over, is to put the sign right on the right away,
Oh, well, there you go.
right in front. And that
Yeah.
way, whatever happens down the road, this is still on town land.
Right.
Right, good point, so we could still put a sign
right.
up.
Yeah.
And in order to do a tour, do we have to get permission or,
Oh, no, but I think, that's right. We would not need permission from the heirs to place a sign there, put it in the right of way. Would the town be willing to spend money on a plaque for a private cemetery? There's a lot of Durham history there.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
And if it's a family-owned cemetery, it's not a, I wonder how that came to be, because there's many families in
That
there.
would be the interesting, a little blurb on it. It's just how it came to be, and because
Right.
you
Well,
want to
we'll
know
have to-
how
yeah.
people don't even
Should
think
we ask
about it.
Janet to come to
Yeah,
our
we
meeting
can,
and
yeah.
talk about it?
Yeah.
All right, let's
She would
invite,
know.
yeah, she'll invite Janet to come and shed some light. For all we know, she's watching. All right. So that gets us to, if there's any other business, you sent us this email from Peter Stanhope.
Oh, yeah. So
You
we
wanna talk a little bit
need
about
to
that?
talk about that. So Peter Stanhope, I think some of you certainly know him. He was a longtime member of the HDC and the chair for a number of years. Well, I think one of the things Peter prided himself on is that we were able to motivate some property owners, mainly on Churchill, to make enhancements to their property, student housing sites that were not very well maintained. And one of the ways that we did that, partly in just reaching out and appealing to their goodwill, and also we do have a provision in the Historic District Ordinance, demolition by neglect, which is tricky. It's tricky to use. The town attorney's, very cautious about it. But we have...
Right. Weren't we making some motions toward that with respect to what was going on at 1 Durham Point Road, and then the owner came forward and...
Yeah. I mean, but basically, we don't have a lot of teeth. If somebody, even if something is being, as they say in the preservation field, demolition by neglect, somebody just ignoring a property for a long amount of time, and the paint peeling, the wood rotting, the balusters breaking, water damage, etc. Theoretically, and there are some municipalities in the country where they have a very assertive demolition by neglect ordinance, where if a property is in real danger, the city will actually acquire the property. They'll take it and they'll pay the property owner fair market value, and then they'll stabilize it, if not rehabilitate it. That's something that's pretty aggressive. I don't think Durham would want to do that, and I'm not even sure how legal that would be in New Hampshire. But we have been successful in a few cases by just telling a property owner, you may be in violation of this ordinance, with some repercussions, and they've made some
And they
fixes.
usually take the hint.
It has worked to some extent, but I think Peter Stanhope's concerned. He walks around town a lot. He told me that he's observed both the condition of the buildings and the treatment of trash and parking on the sites. Now, in terms of the latter, I'm pleased to know we have a part-time person, some of you may have met her, Dre Selady, who's really good. And she's very diligent about dealing with landlords
So
and
what
students.
is her position?
She's really our enforcement person. She's a part-time enforcement
Like
person.
like zoning, building?
Yeah, so through zoning issues, and she works under Audrey Klein, and she deals with trash, parking. She had been dealing with the three unrelated, if there were, we thought there were more than three. But for example, if in student housing, if there's a party on a Friday or Saturday night, they have 24 hours to clean up the trash. And if it's still there, the beer bottles and everything else, she'll issue them a citation. And that can get pricey, so it's been very effective. But Peter said he's observed some trash and stuff. I haven't seen it myself, so I don't know. Dre is very, very good. I don't know there's a lot more we can do. And in terms of buildings, he observed there's some that are not in very good shape. Something he suggested that actually the commission did years ago, people walked through the district, particularly Church Hill, and they observed individual properties and things that seemed to be falling apart, and then we could follow up with a letter to the owners. And I wonder if that's something that the commission members would like to do, either individually or a subcommittee, walk around and make notes.
So did he specifically identify what properties he was concerned about?
Yeah.
Well, that would be helpful if he did.
Yeah, but it's something, he suggested that the commission do that. I mean, we could go for a walk together on Church Hill. I could get a van, the rec van, and we could drive the whole district and look at sites. Or individuals or a committee could put together your observations. So I, at Peter's suggestion, I raised this to see if there's something you'd like to do.
I think we have hired enforcement people who do a good job. Audrey's one of the best in the state and is known for that. What's nice is that she's now training the next people to come in to be even-keeled, realistic, but pretty strict. So I think that might be the first stop. I know that from years ago, the concern was Sunday mornings and the 24 hours. Well, by the time Monday rolled around, the kids mostly cleaned them up, and now they've learned they have to. So come Monday, usually things are not that bad. Sunday morning, not so great. And that's just,
Yeah.
but they've got the 24 hours,
Maybe, yeah, should we
It's-
invite Dre to come and speak with us or about what she does and what if she would like any kind of support from us?
Sure. I will see if she'll be available, at least on Zoom, if nothing
Yeah,
else.
yeah,
Yeah, that draws a connection, I think. I think that's
yeah.
great.
Because then she
Yeah.
wouldn't just be, so is she a recent hire, or has she been here for a while?
She's been here over a year.
Oh.
Yeah,
A couple
yeah,
years
Was
now, I
she
think.
selected in, because of Audrey's desire to work less?
No, but because it's a little overwhelming, keeping track of, it's signed via, it's also
Uh-huh. So it
snipe
was perceived as
signs.
a need that,
If we're going to be serious about enforcement, we have to have somebody who's focused on that. Yeah. I will see if she can join us at the June meeting.
And if so, maybe we can put her towards the front so she don't have to
Yeah,
listen to us all.
right.
Yeah, or have her come on Zoom or something.
Right.
Do you want to do anything about observing properties in the district, or even go for a tour just to see the overall state of the district?
I don't know if I feel like we need a scheduled field trip, I think. Going by in our own time.
right,
That
just,
makes me feel safe.
everyone
Yeah,
should
we all
just
do
take
it.
a look
Yeah.
at,
I don't mind
between
on
now
that.
and next meeting, take a look around wherever your
Yeah.
usual haunts are and make some notes and
Yeah.
Yeah.
contribute what you see. I mean, I noticed that the house on, is it Mill Road, where that used to be,
The hatches?
yes, the hatches, just a little bit of painting has been done, but not very much. That's one that people have been concerned about since it became a student housing. It hasn't
Is
been very
that
well
in the
maintained.
district though? Is that,
No.
No, but,
yeah.
And then the
perhaps-
one also on, at the end of Bennett, in the, that White House, used to be Hannah something.
Oh, Hannah Dewey House.
Yeah,
The
that's a-
bed and breakfast.
That's a shame.
It is, but.
So are there
yeah, it's-
regulations that apply to the town in general about maintenance of properties?
No.
Only this,
No.
only the historic district?
Yeah, that's always a tough one to,
Yeah.
put on somebody, a farmer who's
Michael.
part of it.
Yeah, it's a
Right.
little,
Michael,
it's a
excuse
little
me.
off-putting to be
You
told,
also,
you need to
Yeah.
paint your house more often. It's like,
I
also
do need to
had-
paint my house more often.
I do too.
There was mentioning in there about the Smith Chapel.
Right.
Now, is that our responsibility, or?
As a Heritage Commission,
Okay.
yes.
Well,
Yes.
I actually took a walk around it a couple weeks ago. Have you been around it recently, anybody here?
No.
Not
Couple of
closely.
years.
The cracks that I'm seeing, and I'm not a masonry person, but I know what's gonna happen if it isn't already, water is coming in there. Because the cracks are just, where the granite is, it's about this wide.
In the
So-
wall?
Yeah, on the outside. Backside, I don't know, let's see, that would be east and west side of it.
On the riverside? and-
Yeah. And I can see these cracks, and I'm just looking at it, and I'm saying, yeah, that's
Wow.
not good.
We were
There's no-
working on that project,
No
weren't
joint
we?
compound, nothing in
Wow.
there, it's just
That-
crack.
I'll take a look
So
and let
we
Public
did
Works
have
know.
I
someone
don't know
come
what-
and take a look at that, and they provided the town with an estimate. The problem is that that work was done, what, 8 years ago, and it was done improperly. And again,
Yeah, it doesn't look as though it was done very well,
Yeah.
because right now, it's falling apart.
it wasn't, and
Yeah.
the lime content wasn't
Yeah.
correct, so it has to be redone. And I think we can probably, I didn't want to write a moose plate grant for it, because we just got a moose plate grant for that work maybe 7 years ago, and it just wasn't done properly the first time. And so now, if there are still moose plate grants, we can probably.
Has anyone been in it in the last year?
Yeah, I'm monitoring the temperature and humidity,
Okay.
so.
Is that under control? Temperature and humidity?
I have to analyze we have the data for now a year, so I have to have my husband analyze it.
Yeah.
Or anyone else with that kind of skill.
I'll take a look. I don't know if it's in my wheelhouse, but
It's downloading information from a data logger, so.
So does it have heat in the winter?
No,
So
It's, you know, it does need work, there's no
Right.
doubt.
Okay, anything else we should talk about? So we'll discuss our goals next time. And hopefully have a visit with Dre.
And see if Janet can join us?
Yes, and Janet, right. So do we know when's Larry coming back?
Oh, well, before the June meeting.
Okay, because we might want to, I guess I could write him an email or something about the things we want to do at the next meeting, so make sure he's on board with those. All right. Anybody like to,
Is there other business?
that's what we've been doing.
That's-
what we've been in that
Okay,
section
okay.
for the last few minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I make a recommendation that it be a motion that the meeting be adjourned.
Second?
Any discussion?
No
All in
discussion
favor?
on a moment to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Meeting adjourned.
Get up before it rains.
Yeah, I know.
That would be nice.
Well, we won't have it.